We all experience moments in life where time seems to slip away unnoticed. As we look back, it often feels as though the years have vanished, leaving behind only the weight of regret. We think about the dreams that never came to fruition, relationships that ended in pain, and the opportunities that were missed. The burden of wasted time can feel overwhelming, especially when we realize that certain things cannot be undone. Yet, this feeling of loss is not unique to any one person. It's a shared human experience. Everyone, at some point, wonders where the time went and what could have been. But amidst this sense of loss, there is hope. The Bible speaks directly to this feeling of wasted years, offering a powerful promise of restoration. In Joel 2 verse 25, God assures his people, "I will restore to you the years that the swarming locust has eaten." This promise isn't just a fleeting comfort, it's a guarantee. No matter how much time may seem lost or how many opportunities have passed by, God offers the assurance that he can redeem it all. As we delve into the meaning of restoration, it becomes clear that God's redemption isn't limited to material things. It extends to our hearts, our purpose, and our relationship with him. The lost years, the mistakes, and the pain are not the end of our story. They are simply part of the process through which God's greater plan unfolds. God's promise, Joel 2 verse 25, and the restoration of lost years. In Joel 2 verse 25, God promises to restore the years that the locusts have eaten. This verse was given to the people of Israel at a time when they had suffered devastation from a locust plague. The locusts, which ravaged the land, served as a powerful symbol of loss and destruction. The locusts not only devastated their fields and crops, but also symbolized the destruction of hope and the severe consequences of Israel's disobedience. As the land lay barren, the people experienced a deep sense of despair, believing that the damage was irreversible and their hopes were beyond repair. However, this promise goes beyond mere material restoration. It is a divine decree that extends to the renewal of the hearts and souls of God's people. God did not merely promise to restore their physical land, but he offered them spiritual renewal and a restored relationship with him. This promise is a testament to the greater purpose God has for his people. The Israelites, despite their failure and the consequences they faced, could rest in the assurance that God's mercy would transform their devastation into something greater. For us today, this promise holds the same power. The locusts in our lives may take different forms: unrealized dreams, broken relationships, personal struggles, or spiritual dryness. These locusts may have stolen time, hope, and opportunities. Yet, just as God restored the years of Israel, he offers us the same hope. His restoration is not just about giving back what was lost, but also about emotional, spiritual, and personal renewal. What we see as lost time can be redeemed, not just for material gain, but for greater purposes that align with God's plan for our lives. This divine restoration is not just a return to what was, but an upgrade. God multiplies what was lost. He transforms pain into purpose, trials into testimonies, and brokenness into strength. God's restoration is a process, and though we may not see immediate results, we can trust that he is at work, preparing us for what is ahead. Even in our waiting, we can find comfort in knowing that God is restoring not only our circumstances, but our very hearts. This process of transformation ensures that the years that once seemed lost are, in God's economy, fully redeemed for his glory. The role of pain in God's restoration process. Pain and brokenness play a vital role in God's restoration process. While it may be difficult to comprehend in times of suffering, God uses our pain to refine us, shape our character, and bring us closer to his divine purpose. Romans 8 verse 28 assures us that in all things, God works for the good of those who love him and are called according to his purpose. This verse doesn't imply that every painful situation is directly good, but rather that God, in his sovereignty, can bring good from even the most challenging circumstances. He transforms our trials into stepping stones for growth and spiritual maturity. Pain, though uncomfortable and unwelcome, becomes the crucible in which our faith is tested. It is through the difficulties of life, whether emotional, relational, or spiritual, that we begin to see God's work in a deeper and more personal way. Much like the refining of precious metals, Our struggles remove the impurities from our lives, making room for the strength that God desires to build within us. Just as gold is purified by fire, we, too, are purified by the trials we face, learning to trust God more deeply with each step. For example, consider the story of Joseph in the Old Testament. Betrayed by his brothers, sold into slavery, and later falsely accused and imprisoned, Joseph's life seemed marked by endless pain. Yet, God was using every single one of those painful moments to prepare him for a future role in saving many lives. His pain was not wasted. Instead, it became the foundation for his purpose. Joseph's story is a testament to the redemptive power of God in transforming our pain into purpose. Through personal struggles, we often experience emotional and spiritual growth. What may feel like a period of wasted time is actually God preparing us for greater things. Just as the Israelites suffered for their disobedience, yet were later restored by God's grace, we too can find comfort in knowing that our painful experiences will not define us negatively. Instead, they become part of God's greater narrative for our lives. When we look back on our struggles, we may find that God was working all along, preparing us for something better. Restoration through pain doesn't happen overnight. It's often a gradual unfolding, as God works in his perfect timing to restore and renew our hearts, minds, and spirits. As we lean into his process, we come to realize that the waiting is just as important as the restoration itself. Through this journey, our faith is strengthened, our dependence on God deepens, and our character becomes more aligned with his will. This is the essence of God's redemptive process. Pain is never without purpose when we trust in his plan. It is through this trust that we begin to experience the beauty of God's restoration, as he takes what was broken and turns it into something stronger, more purposeful, and more aligned with his kingdom, restoring joy and purpose through God's grace. In Psalm 51 verse 12, David prays, "Restore to me the joy of your salvation." This heartfelt plea reflects the profound connection between joy and purpose in God's restoration process. David, having experienced great personal failure and deep sorrow, sought restoration not only of his circumstances, but also of the joy that comes from a renewed relationship with God. This joy is not dependent on external conditions, but is rooted in God's unshakable love and faithfulness. It is a joy that transcends circumstances, one that cannot be stolen by pain, loss, or disappointment. God's joy, as described in Scripture, serves as a firm foundation of strength for believers. It empowers us to rise above life's challenges, offering us a source of hope that remains steadfast, even in the face of adversity. While worldly happiness is often tied to fleeting circumstances, God's joy offers stability. It is not a temporary feeling based on our achievements or lack thereof, but is a deep, abiding peace and gladness that comes from knowing that we are loved by the Creator and that his plan for us is far greater than any hardship we may face. When God restores joy in our lives, it leads to a renewed sense of purpose. A heart filled with joy is a heart filled with hope. When we embrace this joy, we begin to see new possibilities and opportunities where we once saw only defeat. This joy shifts our perspective on the future, reminding us that no matter what has happened in the past, the best is still ahead. Through God's grace, joy becomes the fuel for pursuing a life of purpose, one that reflects his glory. The restoration of joy and purpose through God's grace is transformative. It is not just a return to a previous state, but an elevation to something greater. As our joy is restored, we experience the richness of God's purpose for our lives. We are renewed, and our sense of direction becomes clearer, helping us to move forward with confidence, knowing that God's hand is guiding us. This restoration not only impacts our hearts, but extends to the way we live, interact with others, and fulfill the calling God has placed on our lives. As we focus on the restoration of joy through God's grace, we are reminded that every part of our journey, no matter how painful, can be redeemed. With joy restored, we become living testimonies of his faithfulness, sharing his love and hope with the world around us. Our purpose, once clouded by despair, now shines with clarity as we walk in the light of his promises. Trusting God's timing, The gradual process of restoration. Restoration is often a gradual journey, and trusting in God's timing is crucial in understanding and embracing His plan. When we go through difficult times, it can feel as if we're stuck in a never-ending season of waiting. However, God's restoration is not instantaneous. It unfolds in His perfect timing, and it requires us to trust Him through every step of the process. Waiting is not a passive experience, but an active one, where we place our faith in God's ability to redeem every part of our lives, even when we cannot yet see the end result. The process of restoration can be difficult, but it is also transformative. Through this journey, our faith and character are refined. We learn to lean on God's wisdom, which often works beyond what we can understand. When we wait for His intervention, we allow Him to mold us, teaching us patience, perseverance, and trust. Instead of rushing to fix our situation on our own, we give God the space to work in us and through us, knowing that His timing is always perfect. Romans 8 verse 28 assures us that in all things God works for the good of those who love Him, who have been called according to His purpose. This verse highlights that even during times of hardship and waiting, God is orchestrating everything for our ultimate good. The waiting period isn't wasted. Rather, it's a time of preparation. Each moment of waiting, though it may feel uncertain, is shaping us for a greater purpose. Through these seasons, we are not only being restored but also strengthened, deepened in our relationship with God, and made more ready to fulfill His calling on our lives. Consider how personal growth often occurs during times of struggle. Think of how individuals who have gone through painful experiences often come out on the other side with a deeper sense of empathy and wisdom. It is through the fire that the most precious qualities of our character are refined. Just as gold is purified in a furnace, our hearts are purified in the waiting. Trusting God's timing means trusting that He is working in the hidden moments, preparing us for what lies ahead. And when His restoration finally comes, it is nothing short of breathtaking, bringing with it both healing and a renewed sense of purpose. As we continue to trust in His timing, we also prepare for the next step of this journey. God's restoration goes beyond our current circumstances, leading us into a future filled with hope and promise. Each moment of waiting strengthens our trust in His perfect will, and we begin to recognize the beauty of His process. Conclusion: embracing the fullness of God's restoration. In conclusion, embracing the fullness of God's restoration offers a profound understanding of His ability to renew and restore every aspect of our lives. His restoration is comprehensive, touching not only our circumstances but also our hearts, relationships, and purpose. No part of our life is too broken for God to heal, and no setback is too great for Him to redeem. As we trust in His promises, we gain the hope that transformation is not only possible, but certain. God's restoration goes beyond simply returning what was lost. It is about upgrading our lives in ways we never imagined. Through waiting and trusting His timing, we allow Him to work in us, refining our character and deepening our faith. These moments of restoration carry us forward with renewed joy, hope, and purpose, even when the process feels gradual. Therefore, we are called to step into this restoration with open hearts, trusting that God's plan will unfold perfectly in His time. Let us embrace the journey, confident that as we trust Him, He is working all things together for our good. Keep walking in faith and trust that the best is yet to come. God's restoration is not just about what we regain, but about stepping into something greater than we ever imagined.